How's it going, guys? This is Brad and John from Best Price Nutrition. Check out our website, BestPriceNutrition.com. We have a 14,000 square foot warehouse in Bolingbrook, Illinois, right outside of Chicago. We have a huge variety from sports nutrition to herbal extracts to pretty much everything. So if you're interested at all, go to BestPriceNutrition.com and also sign up for our email list. So today we have a little bit of a different video. John, do you want to let them know what they're going to see today?
Absolutely, and I'm digging your ugly Christmas sweater here.
Thank
That's
you.
Supplement Warehouse, another brand and another store that we run.
Yeah, no big deal. Very nice.
But yeah, so I guess kind of leading off we're going to be bringing a special guest on in just a minute. This is just kind of a little intro we're filming, but I think it might be a good idea for anybody who's in our audience, any of our customer base who are into fitness, nutrition, and have some info that they might like to share. Reach out to us. We might be interested, in doing some type of collaboration or having you maybe make a video sharing your experience with a certain product or category of products. So definitely reach out to us, info@BestPriceNutrition.com, or hit us up in the comments section or through social media. Today we have a gentleman, he goes by Yalla Papi. He's got a YouTube channel, and I'd actually discovered him a while back. He's got these crazy videos where he's over in Thailand. I think he was training Muay Thai or something over there, and got into eating raw meat. And what's kind of interesting about a lot of the content he puts out, he tries a lot of different diets. I think he's done the warrior diet, the snake diet. What's one where you eat once a day?
The OMAD
diet.
A day. Yeah.
He's done a lot of stuff like that. He does some pretty interesting content on different supplements, and he's actually pretty informative. We recently sent him out one of our mystery boxes.
Yeah.
And anybody who hasn't checked those out, if you go to our clearance section or just search on the site mystery box, we have a bunch of short-dated and or expired supplements. And so we've compiled a mystery box. There's a ton of value packed into these boxes, and it's just $20. But we sent one out to him. He did a review. I'll link to that video down below. And I was pretty impressed. I sent him some off-the-wall stuff, and he pretty much knew what everything was off the top of his head. But anyhow, what he's going to be talking about in just a moment here is his eating raw meat diet. And if you check out some of his past content, again, I'll link to some of his social profiles and things below. He's got some videos where he's actually sitting there eating raw meat, raw squid, eating ground beef out of...
Wild. It's kind of... If you've never seen it before, it's pretty gross, but he goes into it pretty deeply.
And he had a number of benefits. I won't dive too deep into it. We'll let him tell you about it. But, he finds it's easier to digest. He has more energy. Not as much poop, which I'm sure my girlfriend would be thrilled with. I clog the toilet every morning. She'd love this. But yeah, we'll let you guys check out his video in a minute. I've never eaten raw meat. Have you?
No, I remember my grandma used to, anytime we would cook anything with like ground beef, she would like take a little bit and eat it, and it would like gross us all out beyond belief. But apparently it's cool now.
I think in Wisconsin or maybe Michigan, they're big into that.
Pate?
Or beef tartare or whatever it is.
Oh, I think so.
Which is like finely ground raw beef. But yeah, we'll launch into Yalla Papi's video. I think we have another one coming from him as well. And again, if any of you guys are interested in collabing with us or maybe making some content with us, definitely reach out. We'd love to try to work with some of you guys. So without further ado, Yalla Papi talking about the benefits of eating raw meat.
Yo, what's up, guys? In this video, I'm going to explain to you 7 anecdotal benefits of eating raw meat. Now, I guess before we talk about the anecdotal benefits, it is important to talk about, is eating raw meat safe? Are you going to get salmonella? Are you going to get sick? And I have to tell you, I have eaten raw meat hundreds of times. Many of those times, well, obviously not the majority, but I've done it many times on my YouTube channel. You're welcome to check that out. There should be a link in the description. I've done it many times from various sources, sometimes even questionable sources. Never once gotten sick from eating raw meat. So anecdotally, once again, I can tell you I've never gotten sick from it. Many of the other people that I know who have also eaten raw meat have also never gotten sick. In fact, I've never heard of anybody eating raw meat and getting sick. I've never heard a story like that. The only argument that says, the only times I've heard it argued that you'll get sick from eating raw meat is when the discussion of raw meat comes up and people say, oh no, you can't do that, you'll get sick. And it's like, well, I've never gotten sick. I've done it hundreds of times. I've never heard of anybody else getting sick and doing it. So is that really true? and again, really quick, we'll just go over this and then I'll actually get into the meat of the video. But quality control standards in meatpacking facilities are very high, especially in the United States. And really quick, like I'll even tell you, when I used to live in Vietnam and I went to an open air market there once, and I wanted to eat raw meat because I was really focused on eating raw meat during that period of time. And in Vietnam, food is very cheap. So I would go to this open air market and I would buy meat that had been sitting out, not in the sun, but in the hot Vietnamese air, I guess. And it was on a countertop full of people with like old Vietnamese ladies sitting on the countertop barefoot. And I would buy raw meat there, and I would eat raw beef and raw beef liver, and they would cut it up and throw it in a bag, and I'd take it home and eat it. And I was not going to lie, I was a little scared first time I ate it. I was like, okay, not really sure about their sanitation, their sanitary habits there, but I ate it and I was fine. I never got sick. So, if I can, the point I guess is that if you can eat raw meat that is in an open Vietnamese market, then you can probably eat it when it comes prepackaged, in your grocery store. Okay, so just want to go over that really quickly. I've never gotten sick from eating raw meat. I think that if you have a healthy digestive system, I think it is totally fine to eat raw meat. And in fact, it is easier to digest. Okay, so this is a little bit of a controversial topic when it comes to talking about eating raw meat versus cooked meat. The whole argument is that when you cook the meat, you denature the protein. You pre-break it down, I guess, so that it's easier for your body to absorb the protein, I guess. Now, I'm not so sure about that, really, to be honest with you. And like, let's say there are 100 factors by which we can judge, is it better to eat cooked meat versus raw meat? Let's say absorption of protein. Let's even just assume that that's true. Absorption of protein is higher with cooked meat. Does that necessarily mean that eating cooked meat is better? Is that the one metric that we should judge whether or not you should eat cooked meat or raw meat? I would argue no. Because if there are 100 metrics by which to judge which is better, for example, many of the ones that I've listed on this page, you could make the argument that it's better to eat raw meat. Now, again, like I said, this is not backed by science. These are just my anecdotal reports of having done it hundreds of times. And also, it's not like I've never eaten cooked meat. The majority of my life, I've eaten cooked meat. But in my experience, eating raw meat is easier to digest. Will you get as much protein from eating the raw meat as the cooked meat? I mean, maybe. I kind of find it hard to believe that you will absorb more protein, even though I do know that there is a study that showed that you did absorb more protein. Haven't actually looked into it too deeply, to be honest with you, but I do remember, the headline, or I guess reading about it in some article, but I think that might be incorrect, because digesting the raw meat in and of itself is so much easier. It almost feels like it just melts in your stomach, as opposed to eating cooked meat, which has a tougher, more solid consistency, that seems like it would be harder to break down. Like think of a slab of raw meat or some raw ground beef. That, like, you can squeeze it in your hand. It's very malleable. It doesn't seem like it's very hard to break down. Whereas cooked meat, think of a cooked steak. It's like this tough block of cooked flesh. Anyway, I think it's easier to digest. For me, it's easier to digest. And let's talk about this next point right here. When you eat raw meat, you have very little waste. Okay. One of the issues with doing the carnivore diet or eating a mainly meat-based diet is that you will get constipated. You'll get stopped up. And the reason for that, in my opinion, is because most people, when they do carnivore, is they cook all their meat. And related to the point that I just talked about, how meat, I don't think when it's cooked is easier to digest. I think what ends up happening is you cook all of this meat and it just kind of sits in your stomach because your body has to spend more time breaking it down. Whereas when it's cooked, I'm not really sure why there's so much less waste, but like you don't poop as much. I don't know. Like, I've been eating raw meat now. I'm trying Michaela Peterson's Lion Diet, and I am eating basically raw meat. I've been eating it for the past 3 days, and I'm not bloated, and my bowel movements are just like there's just nothing there. There's just not a lot there. I'm eating like a kilo of raw meat a day. Whereas if I was eating cooked meat, or if I was eating, carbs or other foods that have a lot of fiber, like, you better have that plunger ready. So there's very little waste. So you just don't poop as much, I guess, which I never thought that would be a benefit. But overall, you just feel lighter, right? You eat the raw meat and you just feel, you don't have that bloated feeling like, oh, I just ate, I'm so full. It's like you eat it and you don't want to eat anymore, and that's it. You're done. You're not bloated. You don't get that like food belly. And I guess that brings us to the next point, which is that it's more satiating than eating cooked meat. So and I guess this is more directly related to this lion diet that I'm eating now, but when you eat raw meat, when you only eat raw meat, right? One of the benefits of doing a restrictive diet like this compared to, being vegan or, some of the other restrictive diets is that if you are only allowed to eat meat, right? Only eating meat, you are not going to eat because you're bored. You're not going to go eat just because you feel like munching on something, or you're like, I kind of like want to taste something good right now. What do I have in my cupboard? You're not going to do that, because like eating raw meat it tastes good, I guess. I don't think it tastes bad. But it's not something that you're just going to go eat because you're bored. Like I'm not going to go into the kitchen and take a bunch of ground beef and like eat a forkful of it because I'm bored. It's really not that satisfying. But satisfying is not the same as satiating. And if we are eating, we've heard eating with purpose. If we're eating with purpose and we want to eat the food that is the best for our body, all things considered, all metrics evaluated, if that was even possible, then you could make the argument that that is not a bad trade-off to make, if that's interesting to you. And to me it is. So it's more satiating than eating cooked meat, right? What I've noticed is that when I sit down for a meal, I'll sit down and I'll eat my full, I'll eat my fill, and then when I'm full, I just don't want to eat anymore. It's not like one of the issues that I've run into in the past when I'm eating, when I'm doing a normal diet, I guess, or when I'm eating regularly, is that I can eat, and then when I'm full, I'll keep eating because the food tastes good. And then afterwards, I'll eat some dessert, not because I'm hungry, but because I want to taste something good. And when you're truly satiated, you do not want to eat anything else. And quick little side note, this is something that I noticed when once I did a diet where I would eat only egg yolks and olive oil. Well, not only egg yolks and olive oil, but I would have 20 egg yolks. That would be my meal. And I would cook them in olive oil. And then when I had them on the plate, I would use the olive oil as like a dressing. And I would soak those egg yolks in olive oil. And I was so full when I ate that. Like I did not want to, not like I had a large volume of food in my stomach, because that's not what it was. I was just so satiated that I didn't even want to snack on sugary foods afterwards. I was just like, I was done. I did not want to eat another bite of anything. Okay, so another thing, benefits of eating raw meat is that it helps with weight management. So anytime you have a restrictive diet, I think it will help with weight management. So this is not something that is unique to eating raw meat. But one of the good things about, and I don't, I guess this applies more if you only eat raw meat, because of the point that I mentioned earlier, where if you are restricting to only one certain type of food, you are only going to eat when you actually want to eat. You're not just going to eat just because like you're bored, So it will help with weight management. In the past 3 days since I've been doing the lion diet, I think I have lost a little bit of weight. And the reason for that is because I'm only eating if I want to eat. I'm only eating if I'm actually hungry and my body requires some sort of nutrition, not because I'm bored. The next one is that raw meat provides lots of energy. Okay, so it's not that it provides lots of energy in the same way that carbs will provide energy, or caffeine provides energy. But when you are, in my experience, and to be fair, this is the first time where I've done only raw meat. Like I'm trying it for a week. We'll see how it goes. So I'm probably suffering a little bit from the beginnings of keto flu, although the worst I think is behind me. When you the best way to determine whether or not food is good for you, in my opinion, is how it affects your athletic performance, because that's a very challenging activity that requires the right balance of nutrients, let's call it. Your body needs to check certain boxes in terms of nutrition in order to perform at a high level over an extended period of time, days, weeks, months. So eating raw meat, in my experience, when I've eaten raw meat, when I've chosen that to be my main form of nutrition over, let's say, cooked meat, or over, you do need a little bit of carbs, I would argue, that's the one, I guess, downside to the style that I'm doing now, is that I don't have any carbs. So my workouts are suffering a little bit, but if you were to, you don't have to do it the way that I'm doing it, is what I'm saying. But if you do eat raw meat, I think you will notice an increase in your energy when performing athletic activity, whether that's your bodybuilding workout or whatever type of workouts that you do. So again, like I said, this is anecdotal. Try it. I think it's worth a try, really, to be honest with you. Nutrients are more easily absorbed when you eat raw meat. Again, am I taking my blood and identifying, how many nutrients I have versus a blood test that has been done eating cooked meat? No. But this kind of, I'm correlating this with everything else, where I do notice that I have increased energy. It does seem to be easier to digest. It does seem to be more satiating. So I guess my theory is that when you eat a smaller volume of nutrient dense food that we know to be nutrient dense, and you become satiated quicker, my theory is that your body has somehow identified that you have consumed the nutrients that you need, and it's saying, okay, that's enough, we've gotten what we need, you can stop eating now, and it'll send the signal that you're satiated. As opposed to, and any of you who have binged on processed foods, you know this to be the case, you can eat 2,000 calories of cookies, easy. I know I can. I don't know about you guys. I can eat a box of cookies, no problem, really. But to eat a pound of beef is a lot harder, right? You see all these 10,000 calorie challenges on YouTube. Have you ever seen a 10,000 calorie carnivore challenge? Have you ever seen a 10,000 calorie, beef challenge? No, of course not, because that's a huge amount of beef, and your body just does not need that many nutrients. I think you'll be just completely stuffed. I haven't done the numbers, but I'd be surprised if anybody could do a 10,000 calorie carnivore challenge. It sounds like a pretty good idea for a video. Now that I think about it, I'd have to actually work out the math and see how much that is. But anyway, you get the idea, right? When you eat raw meat, again, this is anecdotal bro science, but I think that the nutrients are more easily absorbed. Things like raw liver is very nutrient dense. I would even say it's the most nutrient dense food on the planet, I think. I'm not sure which type of liver, but beef liver, it's cheap, it's easily available. I bought a pound of beef liver from Walmart for $2. It's kind of crazy to think about. Oh, that's another benefit I should have written on here, is that the cost to nutrient density is, well, I guess that's with any meat in general, but the ratio of cost to nutrient density is insane. Like I said, liver is the most nutrient dense food on the planet, and you can buy a pound of it for $2, which is insane. Muscle meat is $5 a pound, let's say, give or take. But you can buy, it's essentially half the price to buy food that is way more nutrient dense. Liver is really high in all kinds of vitamins and minerals that your body needs. Okay, so the next one helps with mood and emotional stability. I have a theory that if somebody is depressed, or if somebody is, experiencing, what is depression? We have to identify, is your depression, are you depressed because you have a shitty life? Are you depressed because you're broke and you don't have a job and you're lonely and you're fat and out of shape? Yeah, maybe, possibly. But is that depression, or is that just because you have a bad life? You know what I mean? If you fix those problems, would you still be depressed? Maybe, probably not. But let's say everything is going well in your life and you still experience some sort of depression. I think that the nutritional choices that you make, the types of foods that you're eating, have a huge part to play in your mood. And this is one of the things, if you watch Michaela Peterson's video explaining her lion diet or explaining her all beef diet, you'll see that this is one of the major motivations for her eating all beef, is that anytime she eats something that is not beef or water or salt, she experiences these, like, I don't know, psychotic episodes, not really psychotic, like emotional breakdown, not really, not as intense as that, but something similar to that, where she just feels really bad. And she has, I don't want to say she has bad genetics, but she has had issues with stuff like that in the past, had chronically poor health since being a child. But for somebody with that level of sensitivity to, non-nutrient dense food or anti-nutritious food, I guess you could say, we can assume, you could make this argument that we can assume that it's the same for everybody else, just we don't notice it as much. She just happens to be very sensitive to it and has done the work to do the research to systematically remove foods that triggered these episodes. And what she was left with apparently was beef. So again, it just depends on how bro-y you want to get with it. I like to try things on my own, which is why I'm trying this for, we'll give it a week. It's been 3 days. We'll give it a week and see how it goes. But so far I have noticed a little bit of a boost in emotional stability and mood. My job is a little bit stressful, my day job, and I have noticed that since eating pretty much only raw beef, I am a little bit more emotionally stable, despite the stresses of my job. Okay, so I hope that video was helpful to you guys. If you are interested in eating raw meat, I highly recommend that you give it a shot. Raw beef is my favorite. I try to buy the grass-fed organic stuff from Walmart, which is about $5.50 a pound. Pretty cheap and pretty affordable, considering, the benefits from it. If you guys want to see more videos like this, recommend that you go check out my YouTube channel. Should be a link in the description. I also have a new fitness program that is coming out in about a month, where I will be going over nutrition, fasting, what else? Fitness, like exercise principles, exercise demonstrations, sample workouts. There will be a little mini cookbook in there as well. So if that is something that you're interested in, it's called The Minimalist Guide to Fitness. You can find it at theminfit.com. Sign up for the notifications, and I think there's a 1-hour webinar that'll kind of give you a crash course in fitness. So if that is interesting to you, go check those out, and leave me a comment if you have any questions. Peace.